Terry, what brings you to the Franchise for Humanity?
Well, I was invited by May Lin to be a speaker, and I've known May Lin for a while, and some of the groups that she's involved in, like Next Now, and her involvement with Doug Engelbart from over the years. And she's aware of, and we have talked a lot about my own interest in why I'm back here in the San Francisco Bay Area right now, which is to become involved in activities regarding the quality of life and improving and maintaining the quality of life in the Silicon Valley.
And when you refer to quality of life, what do you mean specifically?
Excellent question, because when I'm an architect, and I've also been involved with a university for a number of years in Montana, and I'm back down here now. And when we go out and we interview communities and individuals in communities about what they like about their community, it is very interesting to see they're usually talking about qualities. They're talking about water quality or views or air quality even. And it's a while before they get to quantities of things. They don't say we have a lake with 1 million gallons of water in it. But when you start to look at surveys and information that's gathered about communities, it's very quantifiable information. And so what we endeavored to do and what we'd like to do with our efforts for maintaining quality of life in the San Francisco Bay Area is to keep qualities on the chart or keep it on the spreadsheet. And there's a process of doing that called triple bottom line as far as when it gets into economics and financing and measuring products.
Is it mostly environmental things, or could it be things like good schools, good governance?
Absolutely. Those are good quality issues, you know. Nice place to raise your children. It's a good place to live. A great climate. Things that it's hard to put a number with, but are some of the highest things that people value in their communities.
And so how would you go about improving those things? Do you just get together with people and brainstorm and come up with ideas?
That's part of it, and I think that's part of what this conference is about, is the idea that working independently, one can accomplish a certain amount, but working collaboratively, people can accomplish much more. And there are different ways of viewing what the opportunities are and identifying what those opportunities are for different communities. Teaching in Montana, I actually had a Native American Indian tribe come to me and they said, we need a building where the older people and the younger people could get together. They had a teen club, they had a senior center, but they didn't have a building that allowed both groups to get together. And they felt they needed one because their culture for historically had been together. And architecture can divide people as well as allow people to gather together. So we look at how we can contribute to the community elements that allow them to spatially experience things that are very important for them culturally.
Now, haven't people always collaborated? I mean, you have to collaborate to build anything.
Yes.
Is this a new idea, or are you bringing some new aspect to it?
That's an excellent point, because it isn't a new idea. It isn't even a new practice. It is just that in the 19th and 20th century, there was a very queen bee approach that developed to giving credit for having accomplished something. Like Frank Lloyd Wright designed this building, Buckminster Fuller, invented this, when there might have been 20, 30 people involved in that act. And so we're used to everyone sort of getting behind one person and them getting all the credit for having something happen. It hides us from the fact that most things are collaborative. And so you bring up a really good point about it's not unusual. It's just unusual for everybody to get credit for what they're doing. And so I think that's what's happening in the 21st century. That's a change. Not so much that things aren't collaborative, but that people are getting credit for their role in the collaboration.
Now, how do you credit people? Usually you read that someone built this, you're going to have 1,000 names. I mean, who's going to read that? Interestingly
enough, there was a journal article, which we're famous for having one author years ago, with 1,000 authors recently, that was published. And it was to make a point, but it also showed that there were a lot of people involved in producing the work that went into the journal article. And it takes someone who is sort of in charge of the operation being willing to give up that queen bee position and to share fairly with the people that are involved.
Well, usually there are a few people who play a major role. There's usually a few people who come up with the good ideas and a few people who come up with the funds to pay for it. And most of the other people do what other people tell them to do. They follow a plan that somebody else laid out. So they're all collaborating, but I think it's really driven by just a few people.
Yes, and different groups credit collaboration differently. Like when I was in the architecture school, there's this sort of Ayn Rand, Howard Rourke, fountainhead approach to I'm doing this. Where you go over to the film school, and I asked the head director of the film school, I said, do you teach collaboration? And he just went, roll credits, you know. So anyone who has sat at the end of a movie and watched the credits roll by.
For 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of people involved in making a film. Now what gets awarded and what people remember are the directors, the stars, and things like that. But they do go to an incredible extent to recognize everyone's participation. So we learned a lot from the film school when we started working collaboratively with them in the architecture school and the art school and the music school as far as giving credit to everybody that participated.
But is credit important to most people? I mean, if somebody is doing a job and they feel it's an important job and it's valuable and they're enjoying it, do they really care that much if their name appears somewhere?
It would depend on the individual. There's probably some that it's less important to, and others that might pretend or are shy about getting credit for their own work, and then there's others that would, you know, really like it a lot.
So how do you see this conference so far? Is it living up to your expectations?
Well, it's really exceeding them. There are very few conferences where I go to and I feel like all the other speakers are sort of building to what I'm going to talk about. Not that we're the finale or anything, but I'll give you an example. The concept of collaboration. When I first started a class in 2005 at Montana State University, and I filed the name of the class as Digital Collaboration for Architects, I was informed by the university that I couldn't use the term collaboration in a class. And I said, why is that? And they said, well, 2 students were expelled last semester for collaborating.
They would call that cheating, probably.
And that's exactly what I pointed out. I said, is this just, we're so PC we can't use the word cheating because we're afraid of what their parents will say or something? And they said, well, I can't answer that question. And so in fact, they had been cheating, they hadn't been collaborating. They were looking for answers, they weren't looking to work together. And so part of it is, you know, at first I thought, well, I'll teach them a thing or two. The dictionary does have both definitions. The number 1 is the one I use, the number 2 is sort of the Benedict Arnold collaborated with the enemy kind of a thing. So it's important for us to all, and this was brought up early in the conference today, about getting our terms consistent. So we're talking between different disciplines. We may use the same words and they may have completely different meanings. So communication is a really important part of collaboration.
So what is it going to take to really improve the world? Because this conference is about improving the world. Is it about a process of communication? Is it about educating people so they can make a better contribution? Is it about people willing to commit funds or make personal sacrifice? I mean, and what is the major impediment to getting all these changes done?
I think the correct answer in the 21st century is E, all of the above. I don't think we can have one thing that we're doing. We need to start with preschool education, where we're encouraging students to continue to collaborate and play with each other and learn how to be really good about that and fair and learn from those experiences. Because if you look at a lot of the educational experience, it is isolating the student into this solo performance and solo acts, not everywhere and certainly not in every grade.
So he's not really being prepared for the situations of real life when he gets out of school.
Yeah, I think any time we can at any grade level have us when we're at in the academic portions of our careers, let's call it, to have real world experience, that's a good thing. Because so many of the academic silos that have been created over time, all with good intent, have actually created distance between that knowledge and its practical application or how you would use it in the real world after you graduate.
We're just about out of time. Do you have any more comments before we wrap up for now?
Yeah, I'm going to be talking about my aspirations for this project, because the way they've organized the conference, it's about how do you meet your aspirations. And the one I've chosen for this conference to allow everybody to participate in, because that's the other part of the conference, is having people participate in helping you achieve your aspiration or you help them achieve theirs, is to create a center of some kind in the greater San Francisco Bay Area for success in collaborating toward quality of life issues in the area. The other aspect of that, of this conference is, and then how could this region communicate how Silicon Valley is contributing to that with its technological advances to other regions where some of the people that are here at the conference are
Since
from.
this is already a leading place for that
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, and there'll be things that the other regions are leading in that can contribute back to Silicon Valley.
Okay, great, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.